And while not an expert, she does a lot of research, and she also presents with WILPF and Mass Peace Action. And she would like to help us learn more this evening about the very constructive, positive social changes that are taking place due to Claudia Sheinbaum being the new president in Mexico and a woman president. And a woman president in a country that traditionally had been viewed as machismo. So we might consider that an additional achievement. So I'm going to let Ellen speak now and share her slideshow with us.
I'm from Cambridge and have done a lot of civic and environmental work. The civic work is 2 commissions of the city and environmental leadership in preserving a forest. And she's mentioned the 2 Disarm and the Bolivarian Alliance WILPF groups that I belong to. But my history is a school teacher in Cambridge for 11 years. I'll get started now. Thank you very much. The screen will be bigger in a minute if everybody will have patience, and I apologize for that. So I reported back when I came from Venezuela. It was a 10th anniversary of the Chavez period, and we were there to commemorate the death, and there were 11 presidents, and it was quite something because we got to see the improvements. And this is under the Maduro regime. And it was quite a wonderful trip with solidarity people who were trying to support Venezuela as we're trying to do today. So I'm a little bit out of chronology here, so you'll forgive me. I go back from the independence movement into something modern, but I think you'll be able to do it without confusion. I've worked on that. And after I went to Venezuela, I decided to go to Mexico because of the fascinating train that was done throughout the Yucatan by AMLO, the former president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, that I'm sure people have heard about because he really challenged the West in every way. And at the same time, he did make a lot of good agreements, and he did trade between all the North American countries. But he's the one who laid the foundation for Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo to come on board. So this first slide, I'll go back, I'll take myself out of it and let you see the full slide. Where's this slideshow? Okay, so this is the stereotype of Mexico, and this is why people come. The beauty of the place, the warm weather, and you'll note the stereotype of it is also there's some negativity on it, and that is that it's a somewhat backward country, and it's a greatly Catholic traditional country, or that it has domestic violence in it and cartels. And these are the things that really kind of shape mainstream opinions of the place. But what has happened recently is because it does have some of the good qualities, and people are flocking to Mexico from California and all over the country to live cheaply, many young people to work and get paid in the US and go there to live cheaply. And it's fomenting rebellion in some of the neighborhoods because they get priced out of their homes. And this is quite a serious problem, but apparently it's not, this was for a while. I haven't heard anything about it recently. So this is my first slide to give you the feeling that you have when you imagine Mexico. This is on the Atlantic side of Mexico. And so this is Tren Maya. I told you that that had really attracted me the second time I went. And this is the train. You fly into Cancun over here. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay. So you fly into Cancun after 3 hours from Boston. And it is a marvelous train. I don't stay in the super tourist areas, but you do. It's about 1,000 miles around it. What does it say? Yeah, 950 kilometers. And the marvelous thing that AMLO did in planning this train is to stop at many spots along the way for archaeological sites, the famous Olmec, Tolmec, Tolec, Olmec, Mayan, Aztec ruins. And he made that purposely, the train, to hit those archaeological sites, but also it's also circular to make a lot of good transportation for trade and for other reasons, trade and movement between the peoples of the Yucatan that was been so neglected over the years. There's 34 stops on it, and I can highly recommend it. It's a marvelous thing to do because it's highly educational. It's our Mesoamerican ancestors, and it's also a very top-notch, world-class train. It's faster than in most of our trains in this country. So the Anthropological Museum in Mexico City is the one that is probably the most wonderful anthropological museum in the world. I can't say enough about it because it captures and it has the statues and the relics from these periods of these great civilizations. On the train, I stopped in Campeche, and that's where I was able to see, I was able to not meet, but see Claudia at an enormous rally, and I was able to see the love and the devotion they have for somebody who makes long lists of what she wants to do for the people. And she's deeply loved by the people of Mexico because of that. So thinking politically, I just want to say a few words, kind of what Virginia, to recapture some of Virginia's present, what she told us earlier, is this is just coming from me. I'm reading it now, 2 paragraphs here. I believe Mexico is pivotal to Latin America and the Caribbean sovereignty for building a better Western Hemisphere, especially our North American countries of Mexico, US, and Canada. This threesome may be the needed light to understand and expect the socioeconomic advancement we've imagined for our own lives and others. To take into account Mexico's new peace and justice constitution, its governmental and social welfare system, I'm envisioning a model for North America not unlike Mexico's. They have preceded the last 7 years largely with the advent of AMLO, with human rights and development as the social economic priority of the country, tied to a deep understanding and bonding with Mexico's early civilizations. So I'm sharing my experience from the news, from, as she said, I'm not a professional, either an anthropologist or a historian or a social science person. I'm taking it from news, written news, but particularly from YouTube's. And this is what I want to suggest that you do. And if nothing else comes of the talk, I really want to make sure that you all can go to the videos, and you can also use the subtitles. If you have problems with subtitles, you need to get in touch with me or someone so you can learn how to use them and how you can follow the Spanish stations. It's a different world if you have subtitles. You'll find that to be the case. You'll find many worlds other than what you're accustomed to. So because we overlook North American society's connection to the Mesoamerican past. And so the Anthropology Museum by Eduardo, what's his name? Moctezuma. He's famous all over Mexico, is designing these museums that give the past. Here's from the Intercontinental Press, they do the art. And the art is this artwork in the dossier from the mural series Los Nadis, which means the nobodies, from Oaxaca, Mexico, founded in 2021 to democratize art as a tool for social transformation. The collective draws on Mexico's graphic tradition, Mexican muralism, as well as the 2006 popular teachers movement of Oaxaca, inspired by Eduardo Galeano's poem. I'm sure some of you are familiar with Eduardo Galeano. So these particular leaders, and they were from those civilizations, and I'll be talking about them further down, some of the specific ones. Here is the Kukulkan, the feathered snake, which is the serpent shadow. It becomes at the equinox. You get a shadow at the equinox. And this is at Chichen Itza, and I saw many relics from Kukulkan, the feathered snake. And feathered snake represents creation, wisdom, wind, rebirth. It's linked to the planet Venus. So if you go to any of these archaeological sites, you will get a full astronomy lesson as well, because a lot of it is taken from real astronomy that we have today, but they looked at it in terms of representation of the real changing of the seasons and the cosmos. So this is both an Aztec and a Mayan deity. So this is inside the Anthropology Museum, by the way. Here we go. This is AMLO, and this is from his book that captures these civilizations. He's the one that declared the fourth transformation that Mexico is in right now. What he did, by the way, somebody has a radio on. Can you turn it off, please? Thank you. What he did was he doubled the transportation in the country. You know, this is a country of 135 or so million people. He doubled the transportation. He upped the salary significantly, and he got the unfair companies out. That's in mining and energy. And this is after 6 years. He finally retired so he could write this book. And just to let you know, the book is in Spanish, and so is the main book for Claudia. We don't have English books on these people, if you can imagine such a thing. So the Grandeza is connected to the Mexican world today too. So You may be interested in, if you know a little Spanish, you may be interested in doing it. But before leaving office, he was really touted to be like almost a deity because of the breaking that he did and the strengthening of Pemex, the energy company, and the electrical company, making them public. Um, and Claudia has been able to take these foundational works and been able to elaborate and make them even stronger and expand them. So I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to order it and struggle through it with my poor Spanish. This is the Pakal the Great, it was called. Kanish Pakal from Palenque. I did go to Palenque on the last trip. And that's the southernmost tip of Mexico, right on the Guatemalan-Mexican border. I mean, Guatemala and Honduras, Belize. And this is where the train Maya has already got a plan to go there. And I'll tell you why a little later. But this is called the Green Jade Death Mask. And it's from Carl he was the great leader of the state of Palenque. They had it, the name of it was the state of Palenque. And he's the best known of all the great leaders. For some reason, he was Mayan. Okay, so his mother. This is what gets interesting for we feminists. His mother ruled before him and set him up. So her name was Kakul, and she represents the royal line of women as powerful rulers. There was his wife, the Red Queen, Shayak, the rain god. That's not female. Lady Six Sky led political networks. In Kawil, the Temple of the Jaguar, Chichen Itza near the bottom. I saw that Temple of the Jaguar when I was in Chichen Itza. It's about halfway up the Mayan train route with the colored one. So now this is Isabel. This is way up. This is like 1509, whereas the other ones are more like 600 AD. They're more in the 600 range. I'm not going to spend time correcting myself here. So Isabel was a Montezuma, and Montezuma was the last of the great leaders of the Aztecs. And so I want to just let you know that their sense of marriage is very different than ours. She was married to 3 Spaniards, and she was married to 2 Aztec emperors. And she was an encomienda, which was like an indentured servant. But at the same time, she was part of the royal family, but her role was very controlled. Now, and that's part of the drawings in this Intercontinental article. And Shelby, I think you're going to be putting up the links. Am I right? Someone's putting up the links.
Yes,
because
I have them.
all the things I'm talking about are in those links, so you can follow up. Because I'm going very fast and it's somewhat superficial. So here, the Mexico just won the Guinness Book of World Records. There were over 3,000 of these. And you can imagine how they're inspired by the indigenous peoples. But they did win the Guinness Book on this. There were these embroidery and textile exhibition now goes around the country, and maybe it'll even come out of the country. Let me go to the next one. This is slide 10. Okay, so the inauguration. Now you can see the reality of the ancient civilizations surrounding her and giving her the power and the strength to rule with smudges and with all kinds of, this is up on a very large platform with fruits and harvests of the day, and a lot of it was done in their languages. 70 indigenous groups with 70 languages that many are still speaking today in their ejidas. Ejidas were taken away by one of the presidents, but they're coming back into shape now. She's giving them the total sovereignty, total independence to use very large budgets as they see fit. So after this was over, that's when AMLO went to Palenque to live as a retired president. Okay, let me keep going. I'm going to tell you more about her in a minute. Now, the three transformations, there's very few places that Claudia goes where she doesn't share with the audience, with the state's visitors, who's ever there. She's always inaugurating some new hospital or some new school or some new pipeline or energy plant. So Hidalgo was the priest who called for the independence movement in 1810. And he and his partner Morales, Morales was Afro-Mexican, as was Guerrero, the next president. They both represented that race of people. And it's called the Dolores Hidalgo, the cry, grita, means the cry of Dolores Hidalgo. And that's what this painting is. That she speaks about it. So when they talk about Hidalgo, it's the grita of Dolores Hidalgo. So this independence movement lasted for over 11 years. And this part is pretty important because it fixates the people that she emphasizes today in the early period of change to get rid of the Spanish. And what we see is lots of women participating in these changes, especially in the independence movement and in the Mexican Revolution. So this woman's name is Petra Herrera, and she fought as something called soldadas, and that's the women, soldadas, soldier women, I guess, the daughters. And so that's actually she fought in the Mexican Revolution. She not the other women who fought in the earlier part. I skipped around. Petra is part of the Mexican Revolution in 1916. She fought with Pancho Villa. I can talk about those women later. I just have it mixed up a little. The women in the independence movement were very, very impressive. That went 1846 to 48. And you have Josefa Dominguez, who was pivotal in the independence movement in 1900. Juana Mendoza, she fought against Catholicism and corruption. and fought for democracy. In 1848, Dolores Murrow was a socialist political activist and school teacher and poet, was imprisoned many times in 1848. In 1886, Angela Jimenez fought as men. You see, some of them fought as men and some of them fought as women. So during the Mexican Revolution, the wife of Pancho Villa fought for the people, and the museum in Chihuahua is still there. She kept a museum of Villa throughout her lifetime after he died, and that museum is still there. It's in Chihuahua. And then in 1910, Margarita Neri was a landowner, and she was a commander of men and women in battle. And she was a Zapatista. And then in 1915, Adela Perez was a nurse combatant on the front line. Well, that's just a tiny example of how widespread the women joined in as both combatants, leaders, and whatever their skills were. They were committed to the independence movement and to the Mexican Revolution. This is good research for your friends and students, if you have any. Okay, so this is the map of Mexico that I thought was a very good one, in that it shows you, I told you I went down to Palenque, where you see the Guatemala is in Chiapas. It's not on there. I don't see Palenque, but it's there. And so I don't know if you can remember the Tren Maya, but it was stayed around it. Mexico City is, there's Mexico City there, but all of this area is the Yucatan. So that is the part over the years that was so neglected. And the map of Mexico is interesting too, because you see the almost 2,000-mile border goes all the way to past California. This is all Mexico. This is all Mexico. And when things happen, Claudia and AMLO, they go here to La Paz and other places, to San Felipe, to give presentations. And they've also been beneficiary of the public effort, the social structure, the new social structure. Baja California, very happy being part of Mexico. Well, some families, I want to just make a comment about Arizona here. Over the years, these Arizona, Texas, have had a lot of trade going back and forth with Mexico. And in fact, Mexico is Arizona's biggest trading partner. And Nogales here is the major, Nogales is the major trading for all of the United States in Mexico when there needs a physical trading area. It's Nogales and Tucson. So this business of, separating Mexico from North America is a joke. It's not separate at all. I don't know what goes on with Texas and Mexico, but I do know Arizona, it's its biggest trading partner. There are many reenactments today of this transformation. So if she's speaking to 500 cadets, National Guard, Army, Navy, she will talk about the reenactment. She will talk about these three transformation periods, and she'll take one of the heroes and she explains why we are and who we come from based on that early period. And sometimes she goes back to the ancient civilizations, the Aztec and Mayan histories and the great leaders there. But she's constantly working to make sure people feel part and understand their own history. Now, this is a big project. In fact, it's so big that it has, you know who, very, very concerned, because it is going to take some of the business away from the Panama Canal, and it does take the Salina cruise. There's a giant port here now. It takes the Pacific Ocean cargo, whether it's Hyundai cars, whatever it is, it goes it's a short distance. I think it's just several hours to get here to Coatzacoalcos. And this is Veracruz. This state is Veracruz, and gets to the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic Ocean. So you go from the Pacific to the Atlantic in this short, with cargo, with the train. But they've enormous amount of cargo that travels like that, and that is already working at great speed. They are already shipping out. I think Hyundai shipped out 500 cars last month on this cargo setup. So this is called the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. And it is one of the biggest projects, and it's also the train Maya will be carrying cargo cars to do this. So what I'm saying, it's one of the most promising projects in North America, because it's going to give the Guatemalans and Hondurans, depending on what happens there in Honduras, it's going to give the Guatemalans a lot of access to trade and to movement. And it's also going to be beneficial for the United States, because it can move where it goes from Coatzacoalcos. It'll go into the US, and it'll go to Asia as well. I don't know where else it's going, but I know it's going to those two places. I'm going back now to Santa Ana. And the reason I'm going back to Santa Ana in the Alamo is because some things have happened lately that refer back to that period. In 1836 to 1846, Texas became the big attention in the United States under Andrew Jackson and Sam Houston, the good old Southern boys that wanted to expand the United States westward. So they sent a lot of immigrants there, Texas, to open it up. And that really was the basis of a lot of tension between Mexico and Texas. They allowed Mexico to run the place for a while. But what happened, the Mexicans won the Alamo battle, but then they lost the overall battle with the US Army and cavalry. And they were forced to give 55% of their territory up. And recently, in the last, I would say 6 months, Claudia Sheinbaum and her cabinet decided to press to return the territories. I laugh because it's almost humorous. It's such a gigantic leap. But when the commentaries, the journalists were talking about it, they all said this is not symbolic. She she really is going to press it in the legal realm, which hasn't been done yet. But this is, I'm talking about Arizona, New Mexico, California, Texas, all going back to be part of Mexico. I mean, maybe those states will want it after a while if we don't do better in our economy. So what this created was something called the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And Guadalupe, you know, was the great Mother Virgin in the Catholic religion. And Hidalgo, you already talked about him and you saw a picture of him. So that's why I wanted to show it, to show that they're actually going back, because in, I think it's in the Geneva Accords or one of those, they make it very clear that under duress, you cannot sign an agreement. So she has real grounds. I think they have 200-page report on why it was an illegal agreement. So that's what the issue is, agreement, a legal agreement. Okay, so here's the guy coming up next is probably the most famous, beloved hero of all of Mexico, is Benito Juarez, because he was terribly persecuted, but he became president of the head of the Supreme Court, and he became a president. He was raised by relatives, an orphan and a Zapoteca. He spoke Zapoteca his childhood. And he created secondary schools, health facilities, expanded the universities. Well, today the universities are named after him. But he's cited as a great liberator. But he was pushed out by when the French invaded under Maximilian, and even Santa Anna, he was imprisoned. This is, I don't know if you noticed, but someone is trying to save him. He's behind on the right, standing there, and the soldiers are trying to reach him. So it says the valiant, no assassination statue. I don't know exactly where it is. But so eventually, after him came the big repressive dictator, which is Porfirio Diaz. And Porfirio Diaz is the one that massacred thousands and thousands of Yaquis, indigenous people, and gave lots of concessions back to the US, even though Diaz had made incredible gains. He made separation of church and state, secular education, abolished slavery. He registered births and deaths, individual rights, and he created a constitution in 1857, which has always been in Mexico, and of course it's been reformed and developed. But that's him. There's Claudia. She never wants to take credit herself. Whatever people start to say how wonderful you are, she immediately refers to Mexico or the Mexican people or some previous president. She just won't take it. Although in the last 2025, she created 30 new hospitals. 20 more are under construction now in 26. And she's got a house-to-house medical program now in every town, village, city in Mexico. That is medical for the health. And as of yesterday, she created identification cards. So people's whole health records, just like we have here, she's creating it for Mexico. Well, Claudia's background is amazing. This predominantly Catholic country. Her background is in physics. She has a master's in energy engineering. She shared the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007 with the IPCC, the Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change. She was a researcher and professor at UNAM for 20 years. And her professor was in her teaching was in engineering. And she did research at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. And her specialty was engineering in building and in transportation engineering. And she's also worked with the indigenous during this time. She was worked with indigenous peoples. So her parents, they're interesting too. This is very interesting in that Annie Pardo and her father, Claudia Sheinbaum Usilovich, who was from Lithuania, and her mother was from Bulgaria. They were Jewish, or they are Jewish, and they when she was young, they celebrated the Jewish holidays, but they weren't religious. So both left because of the Holocaust, the parents. And the mom was a communist for a while, Annie. There's in the chat, there's something there in one of the links that does have an interview with her mom that tells a lot about their background. And it's a lengthy interview, so it is very interesting. Now, the environmental protests over the train were strong, and the indigenous peoples from some of those surrounding villages stood up for damage or what was going, these are from communes, and for the defense of the earth, it says, and the territory of the mountains of the Pitayal earth of USO of a commune. So, but the situation was resolved and restitution was made and changes were made, and it ended because of that. That's one thing she's known for. If people protest and they have a legitimate cause, they usually respond very well. There she goes. There's the Morena Party. The Morena Party, it very much backs her because of, and they've been able to elect many, many women governors. It's not half and half, but it's close to at least a quarter of the governors in Mexico of the 32 states are women. And she has their backing. Her strength has allowed her, with AMLO starting it, has allowed her to make a big transformation in the judicial system, where the magistrates, the judges, the Chamber of Deputies, the Supreme Court, they're all elected by the people. And Moreno makes that happen. The woman in the red shirt was the head of Moreno, but Claudia plucked her to be part of her cabinet, so she's not that anymore. Also part of her success with the people is reducing the crime. People can feel safe in their towns and villages, and I'll show you something about that in a minute. Yes, this is it. Here she is. This is something very recent. She was having a talk about her battles with Donald Trump, and the man on the left is the big Superman, Spider-Man, the Luke Skywalker of Mexico, because he's been able to reduce crime so much throughout the country. He just goes in with a big crowd of safety and security personnel, and they somehow are able to find these people and incarcerate them. Thousands have been incarcerated, including police, including military people that are corrupt, including anybody, even people high up in the government arrested. Governors have been arrested. So they are really doing it. Now, our president is saying that it's him that's made her have this happen, but it's not. It's her. It's her government. So anyway, his name is Omar Harfouch. So if you see him in the papers, you know I mentioned his name. And there's the example of, the people. Here they are, SSPC investigators, and they're getting arrested. So they're not fooling around. No impunity. And that's one of the reasons that the judicial system was passed by a referendum and by voting her in, is because people were so sick of impunity, people getting off. So the former Supreme Court and the others, the Chamber of Deputies, were letting them off by ruling to let them go, not to prosecute. So Harfouch, when she came on and AMLO came on, they had to get rid of that to make a dent in Mexico's improvements, and they did. So he appointed her mayor of Mexico, and I think he appointed her the environmental chief for a while, and then she became mayor of Mexico. I don't remember whether she was elected mayor of Mexico or not. And here she is in all her glory. The thing that really is exciting for women today, I think, is her Benistar program. That really is her keystone project. This project is widespread throughout the country, and there are even Benistar banks. It's their largest bank now, the social program of the bank, and the Benistar health system. She's been able to give women who are just housewives an enormous supplement. It comes to about $175 every 2 weeks. But she's been able to do that through this Benistar program because they're housewives, and she says it whenever she talks about the program. She says, you take care of your children, you do the housewife, you even take care of your husbands, and everybody snickers. And so that's billions of pesos going. And she wants to double that by, what is it? I have it here somewhere. She wants to double that. No, I don't have it. She wants to double that, I think up to 60 billion pesos in 2027, if I remember. She has increased the minimum wage by 13%. She's increased salaries by 12%. AMLO got 18 million people out of poverty, but she is doing more. She's enriching and empowering the people, the most poor. Her motto constantly is no rich government with poor people. The poor first, the poor first. And that's another thing she says in most of her speeches. So they go house to house with the medical system, the healthcare system. There's a program, and she spoke about this on her inauguration day. She gave a list of, I think, up to 100. It just didn't stop, of things she had planned to do. And one of them was a house-to-house visit to every single household to make sure the elderly and the disabled and the poor have their needed medical, what they need. And that's why she's expanding the hospital system and the clinics as well. So she had, I remember when I went there and she was promising things. She was committed to 25 million trees, a giant bus system that goes around Mexico City, and trams that I rode on. I rode on one of the trams over the city, and my friend Madeline that's here, she also saw those. She knew about the trams. And so what she did when she was mayor, she actually did a lot of cleanup, sanitary cleanup of the city. And she began this process of it was so polluted. And anyway, let me see if I have that tram. Yeah, there they are. So here they are by the tram system. And you walk up or you take the elevator up there and you take trams. I don't have a picture of them, but you can see there she is talking about her tram system with her group. And the popularity, this gives you a little sense of the popularity of her. Every time she gives a presentation in the Zocalo, which is the main square in town in Mexico City, she has crowds of up to 10,000 easily. She's a feminist. There she is. She's a feminist, a leader, and she's devoted to her country. She's absolutely, if you could start to follow her, just what her clothing every day represents the diversity of that country. And so I had to put him in because he has not won any conflict with her. She's the only one in the world that has been able to hold him off and to outfox them in diplomacy. And I want you to all to follow that, because it is so interesting to see a young woman, an intellectual woman, put him in his place with these debates, these conflicts, they're deep conflicts that they have after what we've seen in Venezuela. And last week, he flew a big giant transport plane right into a small commercial airport in Mexico City. It landed, and she told everybody that he was just bringing his people there for classes, for lessons. So nobody kind of believes that. We think it was a test. He's testing her. So this is so interesting to watch this kind of thing, like children. So anyway, another clever thing that she's been able to do now that she's the main supplier of Cuba, because Venezuela cannot do it. She takes the Venezuelan oil that comes, or I don't know if it happened this week, but she's been taking the Venezuelan heavy crude, mixing it with a Mexican light, and putting a humanitarian aid sign on the giant cargo ship and shipping it to Cuba, and his destroyers or whatever they are get out of the way. She's able to continue to do it, and he's threatening her constantly to say, we're going to give you these big tariffs if you don't stop sending things to Cuba. And she says they've always done it. It's been going on for 100 years. We've been sending things. And she mentions all the previous presidents that have also had agreements with Cuba that were, not friendly to her at all, but they've had a relationship all these years. So she, at the G20 in Brazil, in Rio, She was really the darling. Really, I don't know if it, not the one with Biden. I don't know about this one, but there was another one 2 years ago in Rio where she proposed to the whole group. She was the darling there. I saw her, how she was treated by the other heads of state. There were about 35 heads of state. She said 1% of the armed forces money, the budget for the military, should go to the poor. That's what she proposed. But she also proposed that they should all work well together, that they should all do regional work. Now, just this week, Brazil and Mexico made a very big agreement to trade regionally with each other in many fields. It was quite an agreement. If you're interested in Latin America, you might want to look that up. This agreement that they just made. So it shows that the CELAC, the Caribbean and Latin America group, is carrying through with some of their plans, so they don't have to depend so much on the United States. Okay, so this is not funny at all. The biggest embassy in the whole world apparently is in Mexico, and it's housing the head of a former CIA head who was in El Salvador and Iraq and did a lot of training. And now he's in Mexico representing the US in Mexico with Claudia Sheinbaum. And they've already had some clashes, but I'm sure she has to play nice with any ambassador. He was very brutal in many countries, but she continues with things that matter. Now here she is with the armed forces. She is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and they all, from all of the events that I've watched, they deeply respect her. And she, again, brings up the history, the transformations, the Benito Juarez, Guerrero, Morelos, especially Hidalgo. And she has the cadets come out on horses and they reenact some of the scenes. But these two armed forces, this Admiral Pedro Angeles, Secretary of National Defense, and Ricardo Trejo are on either side of her. And they support what she says. And they talk about the people. They actually talk about Mexican humanism. So that's what they call it, Mexican humanism. So, but to prove how she affects the armed forces, just last week, this was last week, she sent 40,000 troops to two borders. I think 30,000, and then there was another 10,000, but I think it added up to 40 in 78 hours. That's how disciplined and responsive her armed forces are. 78 hours, 40, I mean, it's not conceivable, actually. But there they are in the Zocalo, the place I was telling you about, and they do a lot of gathering the troops together. And this is one of the airports. I think this is the Felipe Angeles airport. Just to show you some of this is for FIFA, the World Cup being played in 4 countries, and she's not happy with it, and the people question some of the situation. The tickets are prohibitively expensive. She said, I'm not sure that I'm even going to go, in one of her press conferences. And I don't know the inside to all of that, but it is being built. And it's that's a kind of a nice view of Mexico anyway, and the mountains in the background. This is the protest on Venezuela. You can see the Venezuelan flag. And they have had some pretty growing protests. I think they had several thousand people there in Mexico City when it happened, because not just because it's Venezuela, but because they know it refers to them. So let me just see here. The end here. From this, you and your groups can integrate this part of North America into your models for the future and into feminist awareness circles. Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo is a different kind of feminist than we are accustomed to seeing, maybe because she has the power, the party, and the judicial system behind her. Her transcendentalism is historic, encompassing ancient Aztec Mayan peoples, with 70 indigenous people still having and many speaking their own language. Emphasis on ancient culture has much to do with her predecessor, AMLO's policies. Well, I'm sure. So I was afraid that it would even take longer. It's 8 o'clock, so I'm done. If people.
Okay, so why don't we open it up for questions or comments now, Ellen? Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if people can, Ellen, Eileen, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, this was excellent. I really felt the country. I've been there twice, but particularly like the second visit, in which I went to Chichen Itza. I've been to Cancun. Of course, I went to Tijuana, but that was like a little zip when I was going into California. Yeah, in that corridor, the train corridor with cars going from the Pacific to the Atlantic, and back and forth, I suspect, is just fascinating. My question is more personal. Um, I understand she has a daughter who must be in her late 30s, a history and philosophical major, doctorate woman who's also a politician. Does she figure in any of the stories, the political stories that you've heard about, Ellen?
There are 2 documentaries about her life. I can certainly make them available that do have a lot about her daughter and her son. Yeah, they're
Stepson, yeah.
It's a close family. I don't know, with her kind of the expectation on her, I'm sure she's had to pull herself way back. No, I know she told the daughter was in Boston working for a while. But so we can find out more about that. But I'm hoping that people will talk about the importance of inculcating this country. It's part of our North America. We have Canada, US, and Mexico. And maybe we can actually improve ourselves through understanding of dealing with this place and the presidenta.
Just a comment. In the history, you lingered on a picture of a woman in uniform. And obviously, this woman was fighting for her country, 200 plus years ago. I wonder if Claudia knows how to shoot. Her style is feminist, no doubt, but that doesn't mean a feminist can't learn to shoot if she has to defend her life.
No, I don't know anything about that, Eileen. I just she's
It was more a comment and no question. No.
she's highly protected by many Secret Service because of what she's doing now between our country and her country is very serious for us. Because if Mexico decided to close down the borders or to do a tit for tat with his threats of making cross the board tariffs, we would be in huge, huge trouble at our grocery stores and in our gasoline. And because 80% of their exports go to the US, but lots of their, I can't know the figure, they depend on those exports from Mexico that fill up our supermarkets and fill up our, I didn't say anything about migrants. I should have, because she has been inviting the migrant population back, and they're coming back by hordes because she's giving them something like a green card, but she's giving them insurance, some housing, not all of them. They have to, I suppose, not all of them, but she is encouraging them home with some of these benefits. And they're coming, and they're going to Canada. They're coming back in large caravans. Don't you get that? Don't we get that on our media? I don't have a television, so I don't know.
Yeah. Madeline has a question.
Okay, I don't know, but can you hear me? Does it work?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm just very impressed, Ellen, that you tied in so much history, because I know that you are very interested in what Claudia is doing today. And I thought actually grounding it in all of that history, and especially the Yucatan history with the indigenous peoples, the history of the peoples, and emphasizing that as she does. She sort of, it sounds like from the way you presented it, she gives people a pride in Mexico through drawing on that background constantly. And I thought that was very interesting to emphasize that, because I know you're not an historian. And I thought that was great that you actually jumped on that side of it. And it's something I don't think about. I think about what she's doing today, because on so many levels, she's doing such extraordinary work in terms of social, especially social policies, but also environmental and transportation policies. But anyway, I thought it was very eye-opening the way you presented it, Ellen.
Thank you.
Well, I'll ask a question too. And because I think you kind of gave this picture that she's able to interact with the big players on the world stage. I'm wondering about her interacting with the other Central American leaders. You had mentioned affinity with Cuba, but I'm thinking of also Central America.
That's amazing. She's had summits with the Guatemalan president in order to get that train, to get the trade situation. It's for their benefit. And when she was at CELAC, they made huge efforts to work together regionally. Lula is, the minute she said, I'm going to get our territories back, or I'm going to make a call to try to get this legal thing with the Mexican American War going forward, the 55% of the territories, Lula from Brazil, a number of countries rallied behind it, thought it was a wonderful idea to make California and New Mexico part of Mexico again. So they're, but more than that, they're planning projects and they're doing them. So this thing with Brazil is a big deal. And I don't know what she does with Haiti or with the St. Vincent's and Bahamas and the other Central American.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You covered a lot of territory.
Ginger has a question, I think.
Hi. One thing that impressed me, Ellen, was apparently a huge percent of the population still has original roots as, the first Americans, as compared to the United States. And I'd be curious to know, and you probably haven't had time to research this, how the conquistadors participated in in ruling Mexicans versus I guess it was mostly the English, some French, but then and most recently English speaking people sort of wiped out the Native American population in the United States. And if you run across any historical insight on that issue in your future interest in Mexico, I'd love to hear about it.
You know, Cortez, the famous Spanish conquistador, took Isabel Montezuma's daughter as a wife too,
Uh-huh.
so
Because they have a different idea about marriage in
yeah, but they no, the Spanish were that's one of the reasons. That's one of the many reasons that the civilizations, the ancient civilizations, were wiped out. The Spanish did that. The Spanish period.
Well, I'm comparing it. It seems like Mexico has a much larger percentage of its population as still having original roots, native Mexican roots, compared to the United States, where it seems like the number of original Native Americans are is a much, much smaller percent of the US population. And I realize that the white people who came basically tried to butcher as many Native Americans as possible. And I would just be curious to learn how the governments and the ruling people in both areas, the two different, Mexican portion versus the US portion, how they differed in their ruling styles, etc.
Yeah,
So if you run across that, I'd love to hear about it.
sure. Let's see. Let's say value you teaching your students, and you're going to have them do some studies on this, right? Have you any thoughts about that? Maybe she didn't hear me.
No, I heard you.
Oh,
Ellen,
Okay.
I've been really sick since Saturday.
oh, okay.
And and yeah, I'm on antibiotics now. I've just,
Oh, okay. Well, let me just tell people then we have someone who we know that has students, and she is going to follow this up with her students. Is that correct? Yes, good. Take care of yourself. Good. Who is it? Is Renee? And Renee and I were just in a Spanish class together. That's right. Are you learning for visiting, or just because you want to talk with people in Spanish?
I'm about to go to Venezuela, to Medellin, Colombia,
Oh, wonderful.
and Bogota.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You're going there to check things out or to visit?
Yeah, to visit, get out of the cold. Dance. I'm going to go to dance bachata.
Oh, okay. Wonderful, wonderful.
Ellen, we're getting close to 8:25, so we should probably move to wrap up soon. We did put in the chat links for people to learn more. So if you want to copy the chat and follow up on those links that Ellen had provided, you can certainly get a lot more information that way.
Please, please save the chat with the three dots above the chat, because that really, you can spread that around to people who want to follow up on anything in Mexico. If we don't pay attention to Mexico, we'll be mired in our own downward trend. I'm afraid. I really, really want to suggest it's an uplifting path to take that into account. And there's no reason why you can't with a few clicks on YouTube. She has I don't know if I mentioned, she has a 2-hour press conference every single morning, just like AMLO did. 2 hours, you get to listen to her, and there's subtitles. So if anything can change, it's a change in North America going on. But if we tend to keep on the blinders, it will still, we won't be part of the good change. And we have good things going on here too. Don't make it, I don't want to make it seem like there's only one story, one positive country, but right now the leaders of the country are in power, and they're good people, so it's worth watching.
And how can we get a recording of this evening's, of your presentation this evening?
Shelby, can you tell them that if this will go on to YouTube and through Ellen Thomas?
Yeah, it can go to YouTube through Ellen. I can get it over to her. And
Okay.
then on the WILPF YouTube website, you'll be able to watch it.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, Virginia has recorded it. So, and the slideshow is, I don't think anybody can do too much with that slideshow, but I did make it, so it'll sit there unless somebody needs it for something.
So how can we get that also?
Well, there's no reason why I can't send it to you, Ginger. I don't mind doing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'll have to send you the transcript that went with it. So.
But that will all be in the recording, won't it?
Right, it should be in the recording.
Both the visual and the auditory.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, great. That's good.
All right, so you'll get that. Good.
Thank you.
Good. Well, everybody, it looks like people are kind of dumbfounded. I really appreciated, Madeline, what you had to say about the thing, and I will be going back, and I want to go back though to be a little bit more productive than I was earlier, meaning that I was kind of fishing around, going to wonderful places, doing wonderful things, but I want to get involved with some of the people there that are making the changes. And I have a lot of people I know, but they're not those people. So I think I will try to do that.
Okay.
Ellen, could I, this is not something
Who knows what jabbering people talk to you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I'm not recording you. That was a Zoom that I belong to.
Okay, bye.
Or that I just signed into.
Hi,
Oh,
Dee.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
so go ahead.
What is that? I'm sorry. What, Eileen?
In Disarm, I mentioned the Golden Dome is very close. The plans for the Golden Dome is very close to El Paso, on the border of Texas, New Mexico, and Mexico.
Uh-huh.
And if you could find out how they're going to handle the shortage of water and the contamination of water that will come from that database, that huge database. I'm just wondering, maybe, who knows, maybe it won't work out as well as Trump and his cronies want. But that's a dangerous corner of Mexico as well as Texas and New Mexico.
That's very good and interesting information. Thank you for sharing that, because I don't know anything about it except from what you've told us, but it hasn't, it hasn't included the Mexico part. I think it's very important.
It's the water supply. After they're going to use the water that's going to be running down through Mexico, and it'll be contaminated, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's something I'll keep in mind and ask. Well, thanks everybody for coming. I really am glad to see you all, and it'll get on for people who couldn't make it. We'll put it on YouTube.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was excellent.
Thank
Very
you. And thank you everyone for coming, and thank you very much, Ellen.
You're welcome. It was wonderful to share it.
Okay.